بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه صدق الله العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Can everybody move forward, please? Fill in the gaps. Fill in all the gaps, please. And sit nice and tight. These are the closer you are to the front, the better it is for you. Nabi mentioned in a hadith that if the people knew the reward for praying salah in the front rows, they would fight one another to be in the front rows. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has again given us another opportunity to visit the masjid, a chance to sit and listen to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the words of His beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. As we all know, we are in the blessed month of Muharram, and today is the 10th of Muharram, which is known as Ashura. And many things happened during this time, on this day, and one of those which we all know about, which happens every year, which we are reminded about, is the death of Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who was the blessed grandson of Nabi SAW. We know that he passed away on this day, but many other Sahabis and relatives of Nabi SAW passed away as well, and many were martyred and killed. One from amongst them is the beloved uncle of Nabi SAW, Hazrat Hamza radiallahu anhu. And he was also very beloved to Nabi SAW, and Nabi SAW said, if it wasn't for within myself, if it wasn't that I wanted to take back revenge for myself, and if I was able to for the deen of Allah, I would have taken revenge for my uncle. But of course that would not have brought any benefit. One thing which we also see is that Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala was also martyred. Hazrat Uthman radiallahu ta'ala was also martyred. The cousin and the son-in-law of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, was also martyred. Hazrat Hassan, the brother of Hazrat Hussain radiallahu anhu, was also martyred. He was poisoned. So the question comes, why is it that only do we ever hear about the martyrdom of Sayyidina Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu? Maybe you don't have that question, but it can be a question. That these all beloved people to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also passed away, and they were brutally murdered or martyred throughout the Islamic year. But we only ever speak about Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala. In order to understand why, we have to go back in history and understand exactly what happened and why it happened. So, after the Khilafah, so during the Khilafah of Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala, he was getting towards the end of his life. He was becoming a bit older, and somebody mentioned to him that you should appoint a successor to you, that who should be the next Khalifa. So Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala, he thought about it for a while, and he came up with to the conclusion that it should be his son Yazid. Now he made a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking, Ya Allah, if I am making this decision for my own personal gain, that my son becomes the leader of the Muslims, then I do not want it to go to him. But if I am hoping that he gets it because it is for the betterment of the Muslim Ummah, then Ya Allah, make him the leader of the Muslims. So this is the dua that he made. So we know that he didn't have any personal agenda, because it's my son, this is why I want it to happen. So what we have to understand is, at the time, the Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala, and the hub for the Muslims at that time was not in Medina. It was in Iraq. It was in Syria and Damascus, around all of these countries. This is where the hub was. Now, for all of the Sahaba who were still in Medina, from amongst them there was five. There was five who have been named. Among them was Hazrat Abdullah ibn Zubayr radiallahu ta'ala. So it is five altogether. When they heard about the decision of Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala, that he wanted for his son to be the next leader, they did not agree. And after hearing this, Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala, he personally went himself to Medina, and he discussed with them that what is the situation, this is my idea, and what do you think about it? So he spoke to these Sahaba that were there, and the reason why they did not agree is they said that we do not want it that it becomes that the son always becomes the successor of his father. So we don't want it that because he is your son, this is why that you are making him the next leader. So later on down the line, people might say that this is the reason, okay, because he is my son, so then the next will be, okay, my son will be the next. The way we see in the country that we are living today, that this is the way kingship works. That's when for example, when the queen died, her son, Charles, he became the next king. So they said that we do not want this to happen. We don't want people to think that this is the reason why my son is being given the leadership of the Muslims. So this is something that happened, and again the Sahaba continued. They gave their opinion, but it was decided afterwards that Yazid, he did become the leader of the Muslims. And of course, remember that Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, he did make the dua, Ya Allah, only if it is for the betterment of the Muslim Ummah that this should happen. So this is the way Allah wanted it to happen, and this is why it happened. So it went on. Now, after Yazid had become the leader of the Muslims. So what happened was, there was a lot of the followers, they like to call themselves of Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala and of the Ahlul Bayt in Iraq, in Kufa. Now they, because of what they called their strong relationship with the family of Nabi SAW, they said that it shouldn't be Yazid who should be the leader, but instead it should be Hazrat Hussain radiallahu anhu, because he is the grandson of Nabi SAW. So what they did was, again, before going on to what they did, we have to understand what happened with Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu and Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu as well. The same thing happened with them. That the people of Iraq, they said to Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu that we will be your supporters, we will give you all the help that you need. But it came out that they lied and they didn't give the support that he needed. The same thing happened with Hazrat Hassan radiallahu ta'ala, that they said that we will support you, we will give you everything that you need. When the time came, they disappeared. So again, the same thing is happening. And Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, they are saying that we want you to be our leader. Come over to Iraq, we will show that we support you and you can be the leader of the Muslims. So, of course, at the time Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, he knew about the past and the previous, what had happened with his family members, but it became so much that narration mentions that around 800 to 900 letters were sent to him. 800 to 900 letters were sent that, come, we will support you. So after seeing this and hearing this, we have so Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, he asked his people around, what should I do? One of those people who he asked was his other brother, the third brother. So we know about Hassan and Hussain. There was another brother as well, his name was Muhammad. So he asked his brother, and he said that we know what has happened with the family before and how the people of Iraq have been. So my opinion to you would be that you should not go. And if you do go, I don't want you to take my kids as well. So you just leave my family here. So this is what was decided. So because Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala did not know exactly what to do, he sent his cousin Muslim bin Aqil radiallahu ta'ala to go and check it out. So you go over there, see what is happening. If it's good enough, I'll come and join you. If not, you just let me know. So Muslim bin Aqil, he went to Iraq. When he reached there, 18,000 of the people, they gave bay'ah on the hand of him, and he said that we will support Hazrat Hussain when he comes. So these 18,000, they were there. They understood that yes, we are going to be there and we will do and protect, and whatever is needed, we will make sure that it happens. So as this is going on, when he sees the support which has been given, so he sends a messenger with a letter which was written that everything looks good on this side, you can make preparations to come. So the letter has been sent off with the messenger. Again, we have to remember in those days, it would take a while for the messages to reach. And so, once that had happened, somebody went to Yazid and explained to him that this is what is going on, and they are going to come and try and take your leadership away from you. So what you should do is you should send an army to Iraq and warn the people that if you go against the current Khalifa, there will be trouble for you. So he went with a small army of maybe 17 or 18 of them. He went and they gave this announcement that you should not join anybody who joins the army of Hazrat Hussain, and anybody who goes against the current Khalifa will be in big trouble. So hearing this from the 18,000 supporters that were there, majority of them, all of them, they all gave up that bay'ah that they had done, and they became scared. That, we cannot do this. What if this happens to us? What if that happens to us? So they retracted their support that they had given to Hazrat Hussain radiallahu anhu. And of course, remember this letter has already been sent. His letter has already been sent, so Hazrat Hussain is going to get the news that it is okay for him to go. So, can everybody just sit a bit close? And there's plenty of space upstairs as well, so we'll just send the rest. So now that the people have turned away from the support of Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, you have to remember that his cousin, Muslim bin Aqil, is still there. So now he is seeing all of these things. So now he is walking around Iraq and Kufa looking for some support, somewhere to stay, some help. So he's knocking on the doors of people, and of course not very many people are allowing him and letting him in. There's a few people who opened the door. He went into one person's house who he stayed a few days, but he didn't feel like something was right, so he left. And then he went to another house, a man named Hani bin Urwa. He went to his house and he stayed there for a few days. What happened is, he found out that this is probably not best for me, and somehow the authorities and the police of the area, they found out that Muslim bin Aqil was staying in that house. So what happened is, they gathered around the house and they managed to arrest him, and they took him in a way that because of his support, while they were taking him away, he was crying. So the question was asked of him, that you have spent many of your years in jihad, and now because you have been captured, you are crying. Why are you crying? He says, I am not crying for myself, but I am crying for what Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala and his family, what they are going to be coming into, what they are going to see. So this was something which of course he felt very much. And because of him being part of that support of Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, he was martyred. Now, so all this time you have to again remember that Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, along with all of his family, they have now left Medina and they will be on their way to Iraq. And the collection for the masjid is going around. Everybody is requested, if you can, please donate generously. So Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala and his family are now on their way to Iraq and Kufa, and they reach the place of Karbala. Before that, there was a few places in which there were messengers they were sent, and they asked about the letters which were sent. Did any of the letters reach you? To which Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, he knew that the situation was not the best, but he had a good thinking of the people, that because of them I will try my best. I trust them enough that I will have some support when I get there. So one thing which we have to understand is the narrative that we have always received and heard throughout the years is that Yazid was the one that caused all of the trouble, and there was so many different variations and differences. But Yazid, he gave the command to a man named Ubaydullah bin Ziyad. Ubaydullah bin Ziyad was the one who was given the charge of the army. There are many different so what we have to understand is the narrations that we do have, there's a lot which are not authentic. From all of the things which were authentic, the things which have been taken, we have to understand in a certain way. There's one narration which shows exactly what happened. So when Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, he reached Karbala, and he was known, and it was explained to him the situation of what was going on, he found out that yes, okay, I don't have any support here. So Ubaydullah bin Ziyad, who had been given the the leadership of that army. So he got put in a position. Is there enough space upstairs? Yeah. So he was put in a situation where, because he had been made as a leader, so Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, he said, okay, because I am in this situation, I am in this trouble, there are 3 things that I am willing to do. Number 1 is that if you can permit me, I will go back to Medina. Because I can see that there is nothing for me here, I will go back to Medina with my family and will pretend like nothing even happened. But while he was thinking about this option, he then said the second option, that maybe when I go back to Medina, the people will support me and instead will come to war and have a fight with you here. So instead of me even going back to Medina, I will go to somewhere in the wilderness. I will just go somewhere to a remote area. I will be there with myself and my family, and then there will be no trouble. The third option, which was mentioned and which breaks all of the things which have been mentioned quite a lot about how things were done not in the right way, is the third option which he mentioned, is that if you want, you can take me to Yazid and I will give bay'ah in his hands. I will pledge allegiance to him. Now, this never ever reached the ears of Yazid. Ubaydullah bin Ziyad, he had a strong bit of pride within himself that, no, if you want it to work, then you have to pledge allegiance to me first. So he said the allegiance has to be pleaded. If you plead to me, then we'll think about it. To which Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala said, of course, why should I pledge allegiance to you? Pledge allegiance to you? Of course, which he did not. So this was the reason why the war and the fighting and the martyrdom of Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala happened. Now many things are spoken. There's so much depth and detail that we can go into with regards to the story. And one way to understand is that the people of Iraq, they were always known as the ones to be causing trouble. Now at the time of Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala, they would always cause trouble, that they called him, and they were the ones that because of that he was the one martyred. Same with Hazrat Hassan radiallahu ta'ala, same with Hazrat Hussain radiallahu anhu. And if we think about, if you want to know, after the martyrdom of Hazrat Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, think about it. The grandson of Nabi SAW was just martyred, and he was just killed. But not a huge thing was made of it until very later on. Yes, of course, people felt a certain way about the grandson of Nabi SAW being killed, but only 80 years later. 80 years later is when the people, they stood up and they started saying, yes, we have to take revenge for what happened. We have to do this and we have to do that. But there was so much more that happened within the middle, that it was so much, you could say, there's a way of explaining it. I've gone way over. Maybe next week, inshallah, we'll speak about how much and the depth of what can happen. But the point that I wanted to make today is that there are many things which happen and which have happened in the history of our deen. Everything happens because it is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the biggest thing. That something happens so that humanity and mankind, we can learn from it. So that we can try and take a lesson and some understanding from these things. Whatever was meant to be, that is what happened. And we always just have to remember that whatever position Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts us in, we try our best to take the positives out of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding of these things. Ameen wa